Some of the smartest people I know are broke. Not figuring things out broke. Not between opportunities broke. I mean high IQ, multiple degrees. Can explain quantum physics at dinner broke. These are people who can debate economic policy, correct your grammar mid-sentence, and solve problems in their heads faster than you can open a calculator. Yet somehow, their bank account looks confused. Meanwhile, the guy who barely passed math is building a car wash empire. The girl who hated school is selling products online. The average student is quietly investing, building, and scaling. And they're not just surviving. They're winning. So what's going on here? How is someone smart enough to outthink everyone in the room? Get out-earned by someone who just outacts everyone? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Intelligence and wealth do not follow the same rules. School rewards correctness. Money rewards courage. School rewards knowing the answer. Wealth rewards moving before you know all the answers. And sometimes, the smarter you are, the more dangerous that becomes. Because you can see every possible risk, every flaw, every reason something might fail. So you wait, you calculate, you refine, you perfect. And while you're thinking, someone else is building. In this video, we're going to break down the hidden reasons smart people stay broke. Not because they lack ability, but because they're trapped by the very thing that made them successful early in life. And more importantly, I'll show you how to escape that trap. Because being intelligent shouldn't be your limitation. It should be your unfair advantage. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the intelligence trap. Smart people thrive in school. Why? Because school is a beautifully organized game. There are clear rules. There's a clear grading system. There's a clear reward at the end. Study chapters 1 to 5. Memorize the formulas. Write the exam. Get the A. It's structured, predictable, contained. If you're intelligent, you learn the system quickly and you win. But here's the problem. Money doesn't operate like a classroom. There's no syllabus for wealth. No final exam. No teacher handing you an A because you tried hard. The market doesn't care how much you know. It cares what you build, what you sell, what value you create under pressure. School rewards correctness. Wealth rewards risk. In school, you're punished for being wrong. In business, you're punished for not moving. Smart people are trained to avoid mistakes. But money is made by people who are willing to look stupid temporarily. Wealth rewards execution, not explanation. You can understand every business model on earth and still never start one. You can read 10 books on investing and still never invest. You can debate economics flawlessly and still have zero assets. Because being good at solving theoretical problems is not the same thing as solving market problems. Theoretical problems have correct answers. Market problems have uncertainty, emotion, competition, timing, rejection, and chaos. And here's the twist. Sometimes the student who wasn't the smartest in class becomes wealthy. Not because they knew more, but because they were less afraid to try. That's the intelligence trap. You mastered the wrong game. Now let's learn the right one. Now let's talk about overthinking, the silent killer of smart people's bank accounts. Smart people are excellent analyzers. They don't just look at an idea, they dissect it. They see the loopholes. They see the flaws. They see the 5 ways it could collapse before lunch. Give them a business idea, and within 30 seconds they'll say, "But what about market saturation? What about scalability? What about long-term sustainability?" And they're not wrong. That's the problem. They can predict risks accurately. They can imagine worst-case scenarios vividly. They can calculate downsides like human supercomputers. But somewhere along the way, analysis turns into paralysis. They wait for the perfect timing, the perfect plan, the perfect clarity. They want a guaranteed path. Meanwhile, the average thinker is already selling. Not perfectly, not smoothly, not impressively, just moving. They launch the messy website. They post the awkward first video. They sell the rough first version. And while the smart person is still refining the master strategy, the average person is gathering real-world feedback. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The market rewards motion. Wealth rewards speed of execution more than depth of analysis. Because in the real world, clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. You don't think your way into confidence. You move your way into confidence. And sometimes the smartest person in the room stays broke. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they're trying to eliminate uncertainty in a world that only pays those who can operate inside it. Overthinking feels productive, but execution builds assets. and assets change lives. Now let's talk about something sensitive: attachment to being right. Highly intelligent people often build their identity around three things: being correct, being logical, being respected intellectually. Since childhood, they've been rewarded for having the right answers. Teachers praised them. Friends relied on them. Adults said, "You're so smart." Over time, intelligence stops being a skill. It becomes who they are. And that's where the danger begins. Because business does not reward you for being right all the time. It rewards you for testing ideas that might fail. It requires launching something that could flop, posting something that might get ignored, selling something that might get rejected. Sometimes you will look foolish. Sometimes you will be wrong publicly. And if your ego is deeply tied to being the smartest person in the room, that feels terrifying. So what do many smart people do? They stay in environments where they can maintain their identity. They debate instead of building. They critique instead of creating. They observe instead of participate. Why? Because in a debate, you can win. In business, you can lose, visibly. And losing publicly feels like a threat to identity. But here's the irony. The people building wealth are wrong all the time. They just don't make it personal. They treat failure as data. Smart but stuck people treat failure as a verdict. If you only enter rooms where you're guaranteed to look intelligent, you will avoid the rooms where growth happens. And that keeps you safe. It also keeps you small. Because wealth requires humility more than brilliance. And sometimes, the smartest move is being willing to look dumb long enough to grow. Now let's talk about one of the most dangerous traps of all: comfort. Smart people are highly employable. They interview well. They speak confidently. They solve problems quickly. So they get good jobs, stable income, promotions, benefits, a respectable title their parents can proudly mention at family gatherings. And there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the subtle shift no one talks about. A job creates income. Wealth requires leverage. Income pays your bills. Leverage builds your freedom. When you're smart, companies value you. They pay you well to use your brain to grow their systems. And if the salary is high enough, it feels like you've made it. You upgrade your apartment. You upgrade your car. You upgrade your lifestyle. Now you can't easily downgrade. That's when comfort quietly turns into a golden cage. Because ownership is risky. Equity is uncertain. Building systems takes time. But a paycheck is predictable. So the smart person says, "I'll start something later. After the next promotion. After the next bonus. After that things feel more secure." But comfort is addictive. And years pass. Meanwhile, someone earning less is building ownership on the side. Small at first. Messy at first. Uncertain at first. But scalable. Because wealth doesn't come from how valuable you are to a company. It comes from what you own. Ownership. Equity. Systems. Assets that work without you. A high salary can feel like success. But if it replaces ownership, it can quietly trap a smart person into staying comfortable, instead of becoming free. Now let's talk about something most smart people will never admit. They're afraid of looking average. When you grow up being the smart one, it becomes your identity. Teachers praise you. See, family brags about you. Friends come to you for answers. You're not just a person anymore. You're the intelligent one. And once that label sticks, you feel pressure to protect it. So what happens? You avoid starting small. Because beginners look awkward. You avoid selling. Because selling feels desperate. You avoid posting online. Because what if someone smarter critiques you? You avoid new industries. Because in a new room, you're not an expert anymore. And for someone who has always been respected for intelligence, that feels uncomfortable. But here's the twist. Wealth does not care about your reputation. It rewards humility. It rewards the person willing to say, "I don't know yet, but I'll learn." It rewards the person willing to post the first bad video, launch the imperfect product, make the first uncomfortable sales call. Being inexperienced is not a weakness. It's the price of entry. The average person doesn't overthink embarrassment. They just start. The smart person imagines the judgment before it even happens. But most people are too busy worrying about themselves to analyze you. And even if they do judge you, so what? You can protect your image, or you can build your future, but rarely both at the same time. Because at some point, to grow wealth, you must be willing to look inexperienced long enough to become undeniable. Now here's one of the most dangerous illusions smart people fall into: the illusion of progress. Reading about investing, watching business podcasts, studying economic theories, saving threads, highlighting books, taking notes. It feels productive. You close the laptop thinking, wow, I learned a lot today. But let me ask you something uncomfortable. What did you build? Did you buy an asset? Did you launch anything? Did you sell anything? Did money move? Or did information move? Smart people love information. It's safe. It's stimulating. It feels like forward motion. You can explain compound interest beautifully. You can break down market cycles confidently. You can analyze business models flawlessly. But your bank account does not reward explanations. It rewards execution. Some people consume wealth content the way others consume entertainment. It's intellectual dopamine. And because learning feels serious and disciplined, it disguises itself as action. But learning about wealth is not the same as building wealth. One increases knowledge. The other increases assets. Knowledge without leverage produces zero financial return. You can read 50 books on real estate and still own zero property. You can understand every crypto trend and still never invest $1. The market only pays when you participate. And participation is uncomfortable. It involves risk. It involves uncertainty. It involves putting something on the line. Information makes you feel smart. Execution makes you wealthy. And until knowledge turns into leverage, you're not progressing. You're just preparing endlessly. And preparation without action is just procrastination wearing glasses. Now let's clear this up once and for all. The real skill that builds wealth is not raw intelligence. It's not your IQ score. It's not how fast you can process information. It's not how impressive you sound in a debate. Wealth is built on behavior. Decision speed. Wealthy people decide faster. Not recklessly, but decisively. While others are still researching, they're already testing. Risk tolerance. Not gambling. Not being careless. But being willing to move despite uncertainty. Because uncertainty never disappears, you just get stronger. Emotional stability. Markets fluctuate. Businesses struggle. Sales dip. If every setback feels like a personal crisis, you'll quit before it compounds. Long-term thinking. Most people want quick wins. Wealth rewards patience. The ability to plant something today and not dig it up tomorrow to check if it's growing. Sales ability. Yes, sales. At some point, you must persuade someone, an employer, a customer, an investor, that what you offer has value. You can be brilliant. But if you can't communicate value, brilliance stays unpaid. And then there's leverage creation. Building systems. Owning equity. Creating assets that work while you sleep. That's how income separates from time. Here's the truth. Wealth is a behavioral game more than an intellectual one. It's less about how smart you are, and more about how consistently you act. You don't need genius-level intelligence. You need disciplined action, controlled emotion, and the courage to move before you feel completely ready. Because in the end, wealth doesn't go to the smartest person in the room. It goes to the one who executes. So how do smart people escape the trap? It starts with one uncomfortable decision. Trade perfection for progress. You will never feel fully ready. Your first idea won't be flawless. Your first product won't be world-class. Your first video might make you cringe 6 months later. Ship it anyway. Perfection is often just fear of wearing a suit. Progress, even messy progress, compounds. Second, separate your identity from your results. Failing at business does not mean you're unintelligent. It means you tested something. Somehow smart people turn every setback into a character judgment. If this doesn't work, maybe I'm not as smart as I thought. No, it just means that strategy didn't work. Wealth builders treat failure like data, not a diagnosis. When your identity is flexible, your growth becomes unlimited. Third, focus on leverage. Stop asking, how can I earn more this month? Start asking, what can I build that keeps working? Build content that compounds. Build digital assets that sell repeatedly. Build equity in businesses. Build scalable systems that don't depend entirely on your time. Leverage is the bridge between effort and freedom. A salary increases income. Leverage increases options. And here's the shift. Smart people don't need to become smarter. They need to become braver. Brave enough to start before certainty. Brave enough to fail without self-doubt. Brave enough to build ownership instead of just income. Because once intelligence is paired with action and leverage, it stops being a trap and starts becoming an unfair advantage. Let's end this where it matters most. Intelligence is a powerful tool. It helps you see patterns. It helps you learn quickly. It helps you understand the world at a deeper level. But without courage, without action, without leverage, it becomes a cage. Because the same mind that can design brilliant strategies can also design endless excuses. The same intelligence that helps you predict outcomes can also scare you out of starting. And slowly, without realizing it, you become overqualified for success and underexposed to risk. Pause. Here's the truth. You don't need to be smarter. You need to move. Move before you feel fully ready. Move even if it's imperfect. Move even if someone might misunderstand you. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking longer. It comes from acting sooner. The market does not reward potential. It rewards participation. It doesn't pay you for what you know. It pays you for what you build. So if you've been waiting to feel more confident, more prepared, more certain, this is your reminder. You're probably already smart enough. What you've been missing isn't intelligence. It's execution. And the moment you combine your intelligence with consistent action, you stop being the smart person who almost did something. You become the smart person who built something. If this changed your perspective, subscribe. We talk about the hidden rules nobody teaches, the ones that turn intelligence into income and potential into power. You really want to go deeper? Let's talk psychology. Because sometimes the problem isn't intelligence. It's how intelligence was shaped. First, the fixed mindset trap. Smart kids are often praised for being naturally gifted. You're so smart. You're brilliant. You're different. Sounds harmless. But here's the hidden effect. When you're praised for talent, you start protecting it. You avoid hard risks, not because you can't handle them, but because failure threatens your identity. If you fail at something difficult, it doesn't feel like that was challenging. It feels like maybe I'm not that smart. So you unconsciously choose environments where you can win easily. That's safe, but it's not scalable. Second, the praise problem. When effort isn't praised, you don't build resilience. So when business punches you in the face, and it will, it feels shocking. You were trained to succeed quickly, not to persist publicly. Then there's loss aversion. Highly intelligent people calculate risk very well. Too well. They can see every downside scenario in HD clarity. So instead of acting with informed courage, they freeze with informed fear. And finally, opportunity cost blindness. Trading time for money feels logical, stable, predictable. But 10 years pass, and the cost of not building ownership quietly multiplies. Smart people often optimize short-term security, while underestimating the long-term cost of staying small. Here's the irony. The traits that made you exceptional in school can quietly limit you in the real world, unless you update the operating system. Because wealth isn't about proving you're smart. It's about becoming adaptable. And adaptability always beats intelligence that refuses to evolve.